Smoke filled the cabin. Warning lights screamed across the interface, and Jake Mercer fought the controls as the shuttle spun out of the atmosphere like a dying comet. His pulse thundered in his ears. Virelia 9 wasn't supposed to be hostile, just a recon op, simple in, simple out. But nothing was ever simple when alien tech started firing plasma bursts from the trilene. "Brace for impact," he shouted to no one, just before the shuttle slammed through the canopy. Branches shattered against the hull. Fire licked across the viewports. The world flipped, and then darkness claimed him. When he came to, blood trickled down the side of his face, his helmet cracked. The shuttle was wrecked, half submerged in a swamp of thick vines and steaming water. Heat pressed on him like a second skin. Everything smelled alive, pungent, wet, dangerous. Jake staggered out, grabbing a pack of survival gear. The jungle stretched endlessly in all directions, massive trees spiraling into the sky, their roots twisting like the bones of the earth. No comms, no backup, no clue where the enemy fire had come from. He activated his wrist beacon, dead. Just great. As the sun dipped behind green mist and bioluminescent plants blinked awake, Jake set up a crude shelter beneath a cliffside outcrop. He cleaned his wound, set tripwire sensors, and kept his rifle close. He'd survived worse. Afghanistan, the Martian ice mines, even that botched rescue op on Ceres. But something about this jungle, it watched. He didn't sleep. By morning, one of his tripwires was tripped, but nothing was there. No footprints, just silence. He scanned the trees, nerves fraying. His instinct screamed, "You're not alone." Later, as he foraged for edible roots and water pods, a sudden sting hit his neck. Then everything went black. He awoke tied to a vertical post made from bones and bark. His arms ached. Weapons gone. Helmet missing. Sweat poured off him in waves. Across the clearing stood her, a figure in armor, plated with glowing veins and sharp edges, like living crystal. She stood tall, easily 6.5 feet, with skin like brushed silver. Her helmet concealed her face, but her posture was unmistakably predatory. Jake tested his bindings. Nothing budged. The alien warrior moved closer. "Release me," Jake growled. "You shoot my shuttle, you better finish the job." She cocked her head slightly. No response. Then she lifted a blade, a dual-edged plasma weapon, and placed it near his throat. For a moment, he expected death. Instead, she cut the ropes. Jake stumbled forward, off balance. Before he could react, she swept his legs and planted a foot on his chest. "Human," she said, her voice garbled through a translator implant. "Dangerous. Unwelcome." He coughed. "You speak English?" "No." "Machine does," she said, tapping the crystal embedded in her neck. "Why not kill me?" Her head turned, as if calculating. "Curious. You survive crash. You walk. You fight. Not expected. Thanks for the compliments." She didn't smile. Aliens probably didn't do sarcasm. She gestured with her blade, ordering him to move. He had no choice. Through dense jungle they walked, deeper and deeper, until they reached a concealed shelter built into the roots of an ancient tree. Camouflaged, high-tech, alien and elegant. Inside were weapons, food, medical supplies. Another thing, a map. Jake squinted at it. Symbols marked locations. One circled in red with the word exile carved beside it in Xira'Nalli glyphs. She noticed his gaze and quickly covered it. He filed the memory away. Over the next hours, Jake tried to escape 3 times. She caught him each time with terrifying speed, once dangling him upside down from a tree by his ankle. Still, she never hurt him, never interrogated him, just watched. At dusk, she finally removed her helmet. Jake froze. Her face was striking, alien but familiar. High cheekbones, glowing cyan eyes, ridged brow. Silver hair fell in braids behind pointed ears. "I am Xira'Nalli," she said. "Last of House Nalli. You're mine now, until truth is known." Jake stared at her, breathing hard. "What truth?" She looked away. "The one you carry in your blood." Before he could ask more, she turned and left him in the shelter, alone. Jake sat down slowly, heart pounding, sweat mixing with dirt on his skin. What the hell did that mean? And why did it feel like the real mission was only just beginning? Jake woke to the sound of humming. Low, rhythmic, and foreign, like a war chant sung under someone's breath. He blinked through the slanted morning light cutting into the shelter. The air smelled of smoke, herbs, and ozone. Xira was sitting cross-legged near a small fire, polishing her plasma blades with what looked like volcanic ash. She didn't glance up as he stirred. His stomach growled, and that got her attention. She stood, turned to a side compartment, and tossed him a pack of dry, wafer-like food, tough but edible. As Jake chewed, Xira finally spoke. "You are not soldier," she said without looking at him. Jake frowned. "What makes you say that? You survive, but you do not march like soldiers. You think like predators. On instinct. Maybe that's what a real soldier is." Xira's glowing eyes narrowed, like she was analyzing every word. "Or maybe you were something else." Later, they ventured out together, Jake's weapon still withheld, but he was free to walk. She didn't trust him, but she didn't want him dead either. That puzzled him. As they trekked deeper into the forest, avoiding flesh-eating vines and winged reptiles the size of wolves, he decided to ask the question that had burned in his mind since she first captured him. "Why are you helping me?" Xira didn't answer at first. Then, "I do not help. I study, right? Because I'm a myth." That stopped her. She turned slowly, her face unreadable. "Where do you come from?" "Earth. Soul system. You know it." Xira looked away. "Only in stories." He narrowed his eyes. "Stories." She finally stopped walking. "Long ago, my people believed in the firemen. Pale skins from dead stars. Monsters who brought war, then vanished. Some said they were extinct. Others say they sleep." Jake crossed his arms. "Let me guess, we're the firemen?" Xira nodded. "You crash here. Survive poison, trap beasts. No implant. No tech. Just instinct. That is feared." "Feared?" he asked, voice dry. "You're the one with laser swords." She stepped closer, voice quiet. "I've killed beasts with my hands. Fought warlords twice my size. But you make death without training. You adapt. You change." Jake looked away, uncomfortable. "That's just being human." Xira studied him for a long time, then whispered, "Exactly." As they camped again that evening, Xira let him help build the fire. Her movements were precise, economical. Jake found himself copying them. Communication came easier now, even if her voice still held that sharp, alien cadence. He learned small things. Her name, Xira'Nalli, meant Blade of the Wild Moon. Her people, the Xira'Nalli, lived in floating fortress cities across the stars. She had once been a sentinel of the Third Guard, an elite protector of the royal family. "What happened?" Jake asked gently, watching the firelight flicker in her eyes. Xira hesitated. "I disobeyed. Refused to execute children after a rebellion. My commander called me weak." Jake stared. "So they exiled you here?" She nodded once. "I am traitor now, hunted by my own." Silence stretched between them. The fire cracked. Jake rubbed a hand over his tired face. "You know," he muttered, "on Earth, you'd be a damn hero." She tilted her head. "You would follow a traitor?" "I'd follow someone who had a soul." Xira looked at him sharply. She opened her mouth, then stopped. For the first time since he'd met her, she looked uncertain. That night, a storm rolled in. Thunder cracked like artillery across the jungle. Rain slammed against the shelter, and Xira powered up a weak shield dome. Jake couldn't sleep. His mind spun with everything she'd said. Prophecies. Firemen. Fear. Her betrayal. He turned to her in the dark. "Do you think your people will find us?" "They will try," she said. "I disable their scanners. But if they learn you are here, they will come harder. Because of what I am." "No," she said softly. "Because of what I suspect." Jake's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Xira looked at him, eyes glowing even in the dark. "Your blood," she whispered. "It carries something ancient, something lost. Maybe the truth our empire buried." Jake stared, words frozen on his tongue. Then she added, voice trembling, "If I am right, you're not the first human I've seen." He sat up. "What?" But she only closed her eyes and said, "Sleep. You will need it." Jake lay back, mind racing, heart pounding like a war drum. She was hiding something. Something huge. And he wasn't sure he wanted to know what it was. Jake woke to the hiss of distant engines. Not the shuttle's wreckage. These were active. Faint, but growing louder. Not thunder. Not nature. Dropships. He shot up. Xira was already moving, packing gear, blades strapped across her back. They found us. Jake asked. Xira nodded. Patrol craft. Xira'Nalli hunters. They searched for me. But now, also you. Jake felt his stomach drop. Why me? She paused, eyes unreadable. Because they fear what you might be. They ran. Through moss-covered ruins and roots the size of buildings. Xira led the way, silent as wind. Jake followed, adrenaline burning in his veins. Every movement felt like being watched, because they were. Overhead, black craft swept by, scanning with searchlights that burned purple streaks across the canopy. Keep moving, Xira ordered. We reached the monolith by dusk. What's the monolith? Old tech. Ancient relay. Not Xira'Nalli. Something older. I hid part of my crystal there. It can call help, or end this. Jake didn't like the sound of end this. They paused by a massive wall of bark and stone. Xira raised a hand, whispering to it. Hidden roots uncurled, revealing a narrow tunnel. They slipped inside. Inside the passage, Jake's thoughts raced. You said I wasn't the first human you've seen. Xira kept walking. Xira, she stopped, slowly turned. I saw him once, she said, when I was a child. Jake blinked. Oh, a man. Like you. In a black coat. Eyes like fire. He came from a ship that burned the sky. He saved my village from raiders, then vanished. Jake stared, stunned. My grandmother said he was one of the Starfallen. A lost god. But now, I think he was human. Jake swallowed. That would have been, 50 years ago? Xira nodded. He stepped closer. Why didn't your empire tell the galaxy humans were real? Her voice dropped. Because they fear you. The High Council knows the stories. Of Earth's old wars. Of how you reshaped entire planets with fire. They buried your existence. Jake felt cold despite the heat. So they'd rather erase us than risk another human uprising. She didn't deny it. Outside, the storm returned. Wind howled as they emerged from the tunnel onto a ridge overlooking a broken valley. And there it was. The monolith. Jet black, slanted like a blade stabbed into the earth, pulsing with slow, blue energy. Vines grew over it, but none touched the central glyphs, still glowing after untold centuries. Xira knelt beside it, placing a fragment of her crystal into a slot. The monolith shuddered. Light rippled down its length. Jake watched in awe. It's not Xira'Nalli. No, Xira said. It's older. We don't know who built it. But it remembers. He took a step closer. What does it remember? She glanced at him. You. Before he could respond, plasma fire cracked from the trees. Jake dove. Xira rolled behind the monolith. 3 Xira'Nalli soldiers dropped from the cliffs. Red armor, glowing weapons, helmets shaped like beetles. Target acquired, one barked. Xira whispered. They brought purifiers. We cannot be taken alive. Jake clenched his jaw. We won't be. Together they fought. Jake used mud and stone to blind one, then grabbed the fallen warrior's blade. Not as smooth as his rifle, but it sang in his hand. Xira was already a blur, her twin blades dancing, disarming, disabling, not killing unless forced. But the purifiers didn't hold back. A blast grazed Jake's arm, white-hot pain. He dropped, rolled, stabbed blindly. One enemy fell. Another raised a gun at Xira. Jake tackled him from behind, slammed the blade through his visor. The alien screamed and dropped. Panting, bloodied, Jake turned. Xira stood over the last one, sword through his chest. The jungle fell silent again. Jake leaned against the monolith, arm trembling. You okay? He gasped. Xira knelt beside him, checking his wound. You move like Predator. No training. No fear. He chuckled bitterly. Fear's there. I just ignore it. She pressed a cloth to his wound. Then, quietly, You saved me. You saved me first, Jake replied. Looks like we're even. Their eyes met. For the first time, she reached out, not to bind or strike, but to touch. Her fingers brushed his jaw, gentle. "Jake Mercer," she whispered. "You're no myth. But what you are will shake the stars." Jake could only stare. Her touch, her voice, it all felt so raw, so real. "What now?" he asked. Xira looked toward the monolith. "Now, we tell the galaxy the truth." The monolith shimmered, casting soft pulses into the canopy above. As Xira adjusted the final glyphs, the alien device hummed louder, ancient machinery stirring for the first time in generations. Jake stood at its base, watching the jungle twitch with uneasy silence. The Xira'Nalli wouldn't give up after one failed strike. Reinforcements were coming. Can this thing really send a message? Jake asked. Xira glanced back at him. Not just a message. A beacon. To anyone still listening. Jake frowned. Anyone. Anyone who remembers Earth. Anyone who knows what the firemen really were. Jake stepped closer. "And what were we, Xira?" She paused. The light from the monolith danced across her silver skin. "You were the spark that burned across galaxies. Destroyers, yes, but also saviors. You ended tyrannies others feared to name. My ancestors knew both the fire and the warmth it brought." Jake looked down at his hands, scarred, still trembling from the fight. "We're not gods. We're not even unified. Earth's fractured. We've been in hiding since the last war." Xira tilted her head. "That may be true, but when you walked into this jungle, every story became real again. You carry weight, Jake Mercer. More than you know." He opened his mouth to speak, but the sound of engines silenced him. Low, fast, close. Xira's head snapped up. "They come." Jake grabbed the fallen plasma rifle. "How many?" She extended a small oar from her belt. 4 drop pods. At least 12 soldiers. 1 command class. He exhaled slowly. "They're bringing in a general." She nodded grimly. "He will not negotiate. He will erase us." Jake glanced at the monolith. "Then we buy time." The clearing became a war zone in seconds. Drop pods screamed from the sky, cracking the earth with impact. Xira'Nalli warriors stormed out, firing in tight formation. Jake dove behind a boulder, returning fire with practiced precision. Xira moved through trees and shadow, blades slicing through armor like silk. Jake gunned down 2 soldiers, then rolled to avoid a plasma bolt that turned his cover to molten glass. His injured arm throbbed, but adrenaline overrode pain. Allowed his cut through the chaos. The command class officer stepped into the clearing. Towering, clad in dark armor etched with gold, he carried a staff that split into a whip of living flame. Xira froze. "High Warlord Razik," she whispered. "My old commander." Jake raised his weapon. "Any weaknesses?" "Yes," she said. His pride. She dashed toward Razik, a blur of movement. He parried her first strike, their blades locking in a clash of light and sound. Jake ran for the monolith. A stray bolt hit its base. He threw himself between it and the shooter, taking a glancing hit to the leg. Xira screamed in rage and launched a whirlwind assault on Razik. Her blades flashed, slicing open one of his power lines. Sparks flew. Razik staggered, but then lashed out with his whip. It caught her mid-torso and sent her flying. Jake fired again, hitting the warlord's side. Razik turned, eyes burning with fury, and charged. Jake stood his ground. His rifle hummed with its last shot. Just as Razik raised his weapon, Xira appeared behind him, bloodied, furious, and drove both blades through his back. Razik stiffened, hissed, and collapsed. Silence fell. The monolith blazed with sudden energy. A pillar of blue light burst skyward, tearing through the clouds like a flare across the stars. Xira staggered to Jake's side, breathing hard. "It is done." Jake leaned on her, exhausted. Who did it call? She looked up at the beam. "Old allies. Maybe enemies. But they will come. The galaxy will know humans live." Jake chuckled weakly. "I didn't sign up for this." "You were chosen by fire. Like before," she said softly. He turned to her. "Xira, what you said earlier, that I wasn't the first." She nodded. "Was he family?" Her eyes shimmered. "He saved my grandmother." She told stories of his eyes, his voice. "I carry her blood." "Which means I carry yours too." Jake's breath caught. "I'm part human, Jake," she whispered. That's what I never told the Empire. That's why I was marked for exile. I am what they fear, a bridge between your kind and mine. Jake stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. You could have killed me. You didn't. You could have run, she said, but you stayed. Their foreheads touched. You made me believe, she whispered. Jake smiled faintly. And you made me forget how to breathe. Above them, the light burned higher, brighter. Across the stars, the signal was received. The galaxy would never be the same.